Hey there, YouTubers. This is Amberola1B, so now you know what I look like. Anyway, I'm sending you a little video update on my Markel Playmaster that I sent out a while back to have redone. Now, I know in the beginning I said that I would try to repaint it myself, and I wanted to do it in the original hammer tone finish as well as the original color. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to duplicate the original color because they only make that type of finish in the store stock colors. So I decided to try to send it out to this guy who operates an auto body garage, and he said he'd try to help me and repaint it. Unfortunately, it sat in his garage for months. I sent it out in May of 2012, and I finally just got it back a few weeks ago, and he didn't even bother to touch it. So I did what I should have done in the beginning. I went to go get some paint and try to match up the color and just do it in a solid color. I wouldn't even try to do it in the original hammer tone finish. Now, the only part of the machine that was untouched by any deterioration, miraculously, was the tonearm. And as you can see, it's still in its original color. No rust, no paint loss or anything. So I took this to the hobby store in the neighboring town of Groton, Connecticut, to a place called Lee's Toys. And what I found there was an exact duplicate of the paint I needed. And here's what the paint looks like, just from the little swatch on the lid of the paint can. Now, as you can see, when I hold this up to the tonearm, I don't know if it's going to even show all that well. It looks like an exact match, and I was all excited. So when I brought the paint home, I got the bed plate of the phonograph ready to be repainted. And as I was painting the bed plate, what came out of the can wasn't what was showing on the paint swatch on the paint can lid. So apparently somebody at the factory who was doing quality control wasn't paying much attention. And this is one of the pieces that goes to the phonograph bed plate. As you can see, I don't know if the light is going to pick it up good enough. This is what the paint looked like coming out of the can, as opposed to the actual color that was on the paint can cover. So instead of trying to strip it off and repaint it over again, I decided to just go with it, and this is what the bed plate turned out to look like. So it's kind of like a neat 50s color. You know, it's not bad. I wasn't, happy with the fact that it didn't match the tonearm. As you can see, like I said, the paint swatch on the lid matched the tonearm perfectly, but this was the color paint that came out of the can. So after I gave it its first coat of paint, I realized that, hey, this doesn't look half bad. And so I gave it 2 more coats of paint, separating each coat of paint with a light sanding of wet dry sandpaper with 2000 grit sandpaper, and then I shot it with 2 coats of clear glossy enamel. Now, I don't know what you guys think of this, but this is one of the little plastic covers that goes on the phonograph, and it goes on this portion of the phonograph right here. Now, when I put this on, if you take a look at the bed plate with that piece on it right there, it doesn't look half bad. And I think the chocolate brown Bakelite cover kind of complements the color of the bed plate. And so what I'm going to do eventually is paint the tonearm so that it actually matches the bed plate of the phonograph now. And then once I do that, it'll be all set. But the last thing I'm going to do to this bed plate here is give it one last light sanding, a wet sand with the wet dry sandpaper, the 2000 grit, and then I'm going to apply a coat of Mother's Carnauba Cleaner Wax on it. What this is going to do is take off that rough glossy finish after I sand it, and it's going to make it a nice smooth mirror finish, shine. And then it'll take that rough look off of it, because right now you can see all the you can't really pick it up with the camera, but it just looks kind of a little bit rough. And when guys, auto body men that paint cars, give it the last finishing touch, they always just like give it a light sanding and then give it a buffing with some kind of wax cleaner like I've got in that can. So after this is all done, then I will show you a video of my friend Kevin and I putting it back together, and then I will make a presentation video of it when it's all put back together. So I'm going to stop this video for a moment, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to give it one last sanding and then apply a nice coat of Mother's Carnauba wax to it. Now, I don't know if the camera is going to be able to pick this up very well as far as the differences go, but this is what one corner of the bed plate will look like before I sand it down with the wet dry sandpaper. As you can see, this is from the last coat of clear enamel that I put on here. And then I'm going to show you just a light sanding with the sandpaper, and then I'm going to give it a couple of coats of the Carnauba cleaner wax, because if I give it just one coat, it may not take out all the light sanding marks that I'm putting into the paint. But what it's going to do is smooth this paint out and give it a nice mirror finish. So I'm going to stop this video and get it ready to be sanded. Okay, now that I've soaked the wet dry sandpaper, this is 2000 grit. I am now going to do just a corner of this bed plate to smooth it out and make it a little bit shinier and a little bit smoother to the touch. Right now the surface may look nice and shiny, but it's got a slight, rough feel to it. It doesn't feel nice and smooth, so that when you run your hand against it, that it's going to, just glide across it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in one direction very lightly and just take off that gloss, but I'm going to do it nice and easy. I'm going to go along the edges, making sure that I don't cut through the paint and go right to the primer again, because especially around corners, sharp corners like this, or edges like this and round edges, you can easily go right through the paint. So I'm just going to do that very gently and with a minimum of effort. And that's all I'm going to do right now for the sanding. Then I'll take a paper towel and just wipe it off. And then, as you can see, it's nice and dull now. So after I do that, then I'm going to take my Mother's Carnauba cleaner wax, put a dollop here on the old ratty tablecloth, and then I'm going to dip this portion of a rag in it and start working it very gently. And when you do this process with the wax, you don't want to go back and forth with it. You want to wax it as if you were waxing a car. You want to go in circular motions. So I'm doing it gently. I'm letting the wax do the work, going across the edges. Now this has a very, very, very fine abrasive in it, and it's going to take off that rough look from the sanding. Now this is just a little demonstration to show you what this is going to look like. Now you're allowed to go straight across on the edges because you can't go in a circular motion around the edge. But on the top part of the surface of the bed plate is where you can do it. Now it may take a few times to do this because, once again, this is only being done by hand. And it's definitely going to look different once it's done. So you don't want to exert a lot of pressure, but you want to put a little bit of pressure on it. And plus I'm going to have to clean it off the crevices of the holes, and I can do that with some Q-tips. Just want to keep going across it in circular motions. And I can see that my efforts are paying off here. Give it a little more. I kind of learned a little of this from my father, who was an auto body repairman. And he used to do it on the side back in the day to fix people's cars, repainting them. And now I'm just going to let that sit for a moment. And after I let the wax dry to a haze, then I will take it off and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to stop this video for right now and just let this dry over. Okay, now that I've given it a minute or two to dry to a haze, I'm going to take a Q-tip and kind of go in the inside of these holes. Because if I try to wipe off the wax, I'm only going to be taking the moist wax from the inside of those holes and wiping it across the surface that I just tried to clean off, and it's just going to make a mess. So I'm just trying to get the bulk of that old wax off that I just tried to apply. And now let me rub this off and see what it comes out to look like. And maybe one or two more coats, because you can't see it probably in the camera, but I can still see just barely any scratches from the sandpaper. And once I give it maybe one more light coat, it'll get rid of all those little residual scratches. Now, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up right, but there's a difference between there where I didn't hit and here. It may not even look any different to you guys, but maybe that's a good shot of it right there. But it's nice and smooth right in this area right here. And in real life it looks much better than it does on the camera, but I just wanted to show you a little part of this as to what it looks like when you try to cut down the rough parts of the clear enamel or the clear finish that you put on a painted surface. Anyway, I'm going to do the rest of this bed plate, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's totally done. So I'm going to turn this off and then resume filming after I do the whole thing. Alright, now the bed plate has been all polished out. I sanded it down with the 2000 grit wet dry sandpaper and then polished it up with the cleaner wax. And now you can see it's got that glossy mirror-like finish that I was looking for. The only part I really didn't do was the part in the center here where it's going to be covered by the turntable. I merely just polished that up with the cleaner wax. I didn't give it the sanding down that I did with the outside of the turntable bed plate. So anyway, this is all done. It looks really nice. Now I've got a little mission for you YouTubers. I want you to tell me something. I want to see what your opinion is. I wanted to paint the tone arm over again because I wanted it to match the rest of the machine, but it's in such good condition. The thing I want to ask you guys is, what do you think? If I left the tone arm just the color that it is against the bed plate, do you think I should leave it the original color? I mean, I know phonographs of the period back then of the 50s, they had multicolored sections of the phonograph, and I think this this tone arm wouldn't look too much out of place if I left it the original color. So I'm wondering, with the chocolate brown Bakelite covers and other portions of the turntable that were installed on this machine against the color of the bed plate, do you think that I should leave the tone arm the original color? Now if I left that down there like that, do you think that this would look too out of place, or do you think I should paint it or leave it just the way it is? Let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Alright, until then, this is Amberola 1B signing off.